Yeah. Pardon me and my tone. You can't step to my throne. They ain't working like me. I did this on my own. You asking where we been, huh? I don't know where to begin, huh? All this dirt on my skin. I just came here to win.
So excited to be here, and I am going to turn the microphone over once again to Mr. Kirk Maitland.
Thank you. So hopefully you guys can hear me. All right, so this is panel 2. And it's entitled Disruptive Behavior. So hopefully it won't get too crazy in here, but I'd like to get Jamari, Lazar, and Sunshine Foss up. And I guess we'll start. You know, Lazar, we'll give you a little time. We'll let you start. Just say something a little bit about yourself, if your mic's working.
My mic working?
Yeah, it is.
We in Brooklyn. Wow, home of Biggie and Jay-Z, huh? All right, how y'all doing? My name is Lazar Favors. I spell my name all caps with a dash in front. That's because I chose to. I appreciate everybody coming out to the first inaugural Liquid. This is crazy for me. I appreciate everybody here. I want to thank Jude for supplying this space, first of all. I definitely want to think they came in clutch with that. I want to thank my folks up here for joining me in this thing that we trying to do. So like Jamari always say, we trying to disrupt everything. Right, so that's the whole point for this. So I started Taste of Black Spirits in Liquid in Detroit, Michigan. And, yeah, that's right. D-Boys in the house, that's right. What up, though? 2021, me and my team here, I got an amazing team here. Just our opinion, Robin, Mike, and Ty, my little sister, Delora, LT, my main man, Sadat. Even got one of my partners, Sean Donna here. Just this energy that we created, and we just really, we really brought this thing together. And I'll get into how I really got the product. I'll get into that later. But when we started, we just wanted people to know that beautiful African-American people were producing high quality liquid, right? And they was right, they look just like us, they hustle like us, and they really doing that work. So that was the main reason we started Taste of Black Spirits and Liquid, and we'll get more into it later, I guess. All right.
So now, Sunshine, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi.
Sunshine.
So I'm Sunshine Foss. I am the creator of Happy Cork, which is a wine and spirit store in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. We carry the largest assortment of black-owned wines and spirits in the country.
That's right.
But yeah, that's me. I started the business in 2019 with my husband. He's somewhere over here, Remo. Yo. But we've been making moves and I guess disrupting the industry ever since.
That's right.
We also recently opened up Happy Buds, which is a CBD and wellness space, also in Bed-Stuy. So please check it out. But we are here and we are just so thankful to be a part of this beautiful thing that you're putting together.
Thank you.
From day one, we knew that we wanted to highlight all of these amazing brands and we're just happy to partner with you to just kind of spread the word.
That's
and
right.
You know the love is real.
The love is real. The love is real.
I'm ready. Finally. All right. And now, since I messed up your name,
it's okay. It's Jomari.
Jomari, I apologize.
It's all right.
All right. So now, not last but definitely not least, Jamari will enlighten us about, what he does.
Yeah, my name is Jomari Pinkard. I'm a native New Yorker. Thank you. This is one of those full circle moments for me because my grandmother and my mom grew up down the block on President Street. So we home. Wow. I grew up in Queens, but Brooklyn was always a second home to me. So this is like down the block and up the street. So that's what's up. Man, my journey starts about a decade ago with a few friends at this company we called Hella Bitters that we created, where we made cocktail bitters and things like that, and ingratiated ourselves with the New York City kind of up and down the street bartender community. And full circle, 10 years later, I'm now the managing director of an amazing disruptive business model called Pronghorn. And we invest in entrepreneurs and we invest in entrepreneurs. And we are trying to make sure that we reconcile this industry and reconcile the fact that, as Black Americans, we consume our fair share of alcohol, but we are not owners in the space for the most part. And so we are hell-bent on accelerating, incubating, and helping grow entrepreneurs, their skill sets, and the same with professionals that are trying to come into this space. And those that are there, push them forward. Someone was telling me today about this amazing video that I didn't see it, but it sounded so amazing I wanted to share it, where there's two people running a race, one's way in front of the other, and the gentleman thinks that he's finished, so he slows up. And there's one person behind him that pushes him through the finish line, like, you weren't finished, like, you thought you hit the finish line, but he pushed him forward because he knew he had won. Our job is to push you forward, right? And I want to make sure that that's our mandate. That's what we're going to do for the next 10 years.
So now, and I'll start with you on this question, but it's gonna go around, and we'll also leave some time for you guys to ask questions. I'm sure you'll have plenty of them. What does the panel think the biggest challenges are for the brands that they're trying to cultivate? And that's a big question with a lot of, parts to it, a lot of moving parts. But I figured, it's important for everybody to hear it.
Yeah, I think we'll probably all give similar answers and coming from different vantage points, which I think is exactly why we're here. As first and foremost a brand creator and owner for a very long time, of not foreign to the obstacles that we all face in any industry, but specifically this one. The usual foes are access to capital, right? That's the big one. But what I think is even more important over time is access to know-how. Because once you have the capital, a lot of trial and error happens, you lose a lot of it. But if you don't know what you're doing, then capital meant nothing for you, right? So access to capital, access to know-how, and then access to the network effect, right? Which we're usually not owners in, so we don't benefit from. Those are the big three. There are an endless list of it depending on which disposition you are coming from, but those three I'm sure we'll jump a lot into.
I think I would agree. I mean, for the most part, yes, capital, but getting your brand, you've already had your brand established, and now it's getting into stores. We're lacking in the distribution area. We're lacking in just basically having a sales force dedicated to bringing these brands forward, which, Pronghorn is doing an amazing job with kind of elevating these brands, but we need a lot more of that out there. Which there are a few things out there, agencies and people to help out, but in terms of getting your brand into the hands of the people that actually will purchase, it's just hard because you don't have that. So many of these brands that have been like vintage brands, they've been in the portfolio and the books of these distributors for so long. You have a sales team dedicated to that. You have money behind it. So I think for the most part, it's definitely being able to kind of build on the back end and having that distribution, having that sales, all of that, I think plays a huge part in bringing these brands forward. A lot of brands contact me directly and then I'm like, I'll try to get your distribution, but it's hard,
Yeah, I agree with both of them. I think awareness is key, and then understanding or even finding out where your product does well. Right? If you're a vodka, find out where that vodka is moving and then capitalize on that. Having feet on the ground is a struggle because obviously you can't be in every state or every city or even every block in your own city. So just really being, I think those challenges of having people being more aware, obviously access to capital, because access to capital bring awareness to you, because you'll have a marketing budget. You can do these other things that these other brands are doing. Yeah, I think that's a little bit.
I think the other thing I want to add to it is that I want to make sure that we sometimes break down the misconception that we have to do everything fast. Right? There's like a balance of like how long something takes in your mind and how long it takes in reality. And when I built Hella, it took me, 5, 6, 7 years to build it to where people even knew what the hell it was.
Yep.
Right? Mind you, they even use it. They're just like, oh, I know, I've heard it before. I might have still never used it, but I at least know what it is. And I think that takes a lot of block and tackling. That takes the block by block mentality, not like the shotgun approach where I'm going to run down the block and try to spray everything. It doesn't make sense. And so I think we really have to get realistic about how long time something really takes. In the CPG, in the spirit space, it just takes a long time because you have to be very, very mindful about the small amount of resources that you have. Even when you think you have a lot of money, a few $1 million, it's actually very small when you're playing competition to the other brands in the space. So you have to be very mindful of like taking your time, because the awareness is really about authenticity. Right? And if you're spending a lot of money against authenticity, that doesn't work. And you need the actual time element. We talk a lot about time and speed and things like that, and how we're trying to do something in a quick horizon, but we also have to recognize ourselves, it's going to take you time to actually unpack, your route to market, who's your consumer, how do they consume, where, when, why. You need time to unpack all those things and understand the insights to make sure that when you spend money against it, you're not spending it like frivolously.
Right, I agree.
To go to the Sunshine's distribution point, I mean, the weird thing is that something exists now, the promise of direct-to-consumer, which would, at least for a smaller brand, give them access to people who are just fans and they've read about it. So, for example, I write about whiskey, I write about cocktails. Somebody might read something I've written and say, hey, I want to taste that. But then they can't buy it in their state. I mean, it's like, it's out there. They're grown folk. They're legal. They can, certainly hop on a computer or make a phone call or do a phone order. But the laws in each state make it that they can't. And in the case of, whether it's craft, whether it's black producers, you have an audience who wants your product, but there's all these legal rules as to why they can't just buy it. They can't say, hey, and the reason why I bring this up is, when we were talking for OTC and what happens in the UK, you can buy sample sets there. It's not a problem to sell somebody, 4, 2-ounce pours of something so they can taste it. Just like, because that's the way people get to know your product. Spirits cost money. It's hard to get someone to put their hand in their pocket and drop $50 something they haven't tasted before. If I sell you a sample pack and you get 4 things, and you can say, hey, you know what? I didn't like all of them, I like these 2. I'll buy a bottle of that. You buy that, you have your friends come, they taste it. Like, hey, where'd you get that from? And that'll do more for you, or can do more for you, than even getting into a big store. Because the problem with the big store is, even if, we'll take Astor here, there's thousands of bottles on those shelves. If people don't know to look for you, the staff can't really help you. You know what I mean? It's like you're either coming in there to get something in particular, and in your head, your heart, I want this bottle, or you're gonna look around and you're gonna take a shot. And I think there are ways in which, brands can kind of get to be known better. And I think in Sunshine Shop, you can push the brand you have.
I was just about to say, unless you come to Happy Cork.
Right, I'm saying, it's because you can focus on those smaller brands. And because, this came up, people know Heaven Hill, they know Pappy Van Winkle, they know all those brands, they know Buffalo Trace. Well, the thing is, Buffalo Trace doesn't really have to advertise. People know they want that stuff, they go get it. The problem is, they bought the Indian brand Paul John, and they got rid of all their brand ambassadors. And I'm like, that's dumb. Because Paul John's an Indian whiskey. It needs people to kind of explain, why am I buying this? This is different than Scotch, it's different than bourbon. You can't sell it the way you sell established brand like a Jack Daniels, and you have to basically find new ways to get that word out for those drinks and for our products, and figure out the whole distribution thing. Because that's in my head, because capital's less of an issue. It's always an issue, but it's less of an issue. But distribution's the biggest issue, because anybody who's here and is a producer, you run the risk of being state locked. You're in a state, you're doing well in your state, you have a product people hear about, it's winning awards. You can't get it out to like the 3 states around you because the laws in those states make it hard. It's expensive. Distributors are a pain in the ass. They get in your way. Like they just, you can't afford to pay them what they want to put it on your shelf and not push it the way they should. And so all those things are issues that I'm like, I think it's important. I think things like this can help us maybe work out solutions and try to figure out like what's next. Because, basically we need more Sunshines and more of these.
You distribute in New York, don't you distribute as well?
No, I don't.
I mean, you ship to New York.
Yeah.
We
You
ship
to New York.
Right.
We ship, we deliver, we ship. We also ship through like, I think now like 30 states. But we deliver locally, but we don't distribute.
I meant ship
Yeah,
to make sure
so
that people
we-
can access the product if
Exactly.
they got the awareness stuff.
Yes.
There's a place here, at least in New York, to get your
Exactly.
products
And there are
wide and far.
platforms that, like, if anyone's interested in the spirits industry, there are platforms like LibDib, who I've like given so many people LibDibs. I should be like a brand ambassador for LibDib. But LibDib is an online platform where you can purchase online. So if I'm a retail store, I can purchase online. It gets shipped to me, but it gets shipped direct from your storage, right? So they're not housing any of your product. It comes directly from you, from the distillery, from the winery, from wherever, and I get it directly. And LibDib is nice because it reaches a lot more states. So that's one way to be able to get into different states that, I've had so many brands that have been amazing brands. Like, out in California, they're doing incredibly well, and they've been told like, yeah, we're not going to take you in New York. Nobody really wants your product in New York. So again, going back to finding other alternatives, LibDib is a good option if you guys are even interested in that.
Because I'm working on an article regarding this. I may have to hit some of you guys up about this stuff because it's due in a couple weeks and I haven't finished it yet. But that's a whole other story. But I think it's not quite the missing piece. Everybody knows the problem, but it's one of the biggest problems.
Definitely.
So, it's funny. I stopped asking the question, just started yapping. So let me ask an actual question. You guys think for these brands, is reaching outside of the U.S. a viable option or a way to get new consumers? Because obviously you're different, the same way that, DC's coming here. There are, different laws if you're doing export, and it's possible the bottlenecks you have, selling it to the neighboring state might be easier to send it to Canada or send it to somewhere in the Caribbean or some other place to sell your spirits. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Really, y'all?
Oh, happy.
Whoever wants to hop in on it.
I think for me, and I'll get into that answer. Whatever you try to do with any product, whatever it is you're selling, you own your home first.
Right.
Own your block, own your town first. Get hot. It's no different in the music business. Get hot in your city, get hot in your town. That town will share you with people. And these days, you get around the world in seconds. So if you do the work here, a friend of mine, Brian Smiley, said, if you do the work, we'll find you. So if we're working hard enough in the United States, in our own town, and we're in the proper places and we're making enough noise and we're disrupting a market heavily, those folks will be easy for us to go into those places. I know a woman who can go into those spaces, who's going into those spaces, right? It's already there. So I know that can happen, but that's after doing the work, locking down the house. That was an invitation, like, yo, we need you, as opposed to the opposite. That's just my
I think when we talk about disruption, you brought up a point earlier about awareness. So, you hold down the block. Like, we can go overseas, but it's expensive. It's a more expensive proposition where you don't have feet on the street. You may not know the language. You may not know the customer insight. It's a little bit different. So, lock down the block first. And when we think about disruption, what we're missing or what we haven't built out yet, I think, is using the tools that are in today's kind of like toolkit at our disposal. So we don't use tech well, right? I don't think as an industry, we haven't locked down the like, wait a minute, what zip code are you in? And like, what's the consumer behavior? And what other occasions do you enter? And what spirits do you like? And what food do you eat? And how do I intersect you there vis-a-vis tech, right? With the old school model is, we're gonna do a magazine ad, we might do a billboard, we might do I'm forgetting the word, the digital ad, but like, we need to go deeper. We need to say, you on Instagram, you on Facebook, you on TikTok, what is your zip code? How did you find me? How do I build a database of you, find a profile, and then go deeper to find more like you and to share that story? Because what's true about this generation of consumers is they consume based on their brand values, on their brand DNA, their internal machine, their internal clock. And so what does that look like? How do we leverage tech to understand that consumer so that we're creating demand? Right? We're creating the user profile that really F's with our brands, right? So that we know if it's vodka, whiskey, tequila, whatever it is, we know exactly where you live and how you get down. And I think we're missing that tool. We're doing a lot of old school stuff. So by the time you get to Sunshine, she's not like, I gotta push this, because she's hand selling. Or the team is like recommending things. You want them to walk in and be like, I heard about it from here. I know it's in this store. I live 3 blocks away. They told me that you promoted it, and I know it's on shelf 3. And it got a purple label. Right? Like they already know that when they walk in the store, but we're not using the tools at our disposal given this new generation of how fluid that is. And I think we need to lock that down first.
Yeah, I agree.
No, that's a good point. I mean, truth be told, it's like even in what you would consider mainstream brands, they don't do it as well as they should. I knew a lot of brands that kind of like, for lack of a better word, kind of laid down and played dead during COVID, where they like, you figure that if they had X number of dollars for marketing, they knew that they weren't doing events, which is like, let's say a third of your budget. You're not doing in-stores, you're not doing bars. So it's 2/3 of your money you're not spending. Where are you gonna spend it? A lot of them put it in their pocket. Some brands were smart. I knew one brand where what they did was, I think they had 4 national brand ambassadors, which I realized you have to have money to have 4 national brand ambassadors. But they had their brand ambassadors basically monitoring their internet, so like their Facebook and whatever. You send a message, you're talking to the brand ambassador saying, oh, you want to find such and such a bottle? Okay, where do you live? Okay, here's where it is. Oh, you guys want to do a happy hour? They would like find a local distributor and say, give us a list of, 15, 20 people, make sure we have IDs so everybody's legal. Hey, you know what? We'll send the things to have a happy hour. This is a way of introducing our brand to you. It's not a cheap move, but it's a move when people are stuck at home and got nothing else to do. It's like that one bottle might get you 10 customers.
There's other ways to do it, right? Like how many times does someone walk into the store before they buy the product you want them to buy? Is there like a number, like 3, 4? How many times is there a thing that you really want to give the show that you really like the founder, but like someone doesn't know about it, and you're like, you tell them about it? How many times does it take?
So that's all day. So I think a lot of people, they see Happy Cork and they're like, oh, you guys got it. No, when we started, we had literally 3 people come in the store because we started out making sure that the brands that we carried were some of the brands that you wouldn't see in your mainstream store. So we have to educate the community. So if anybody walking in, half of the brands they don't know. Maybe they might have seen 6 brands that are on our shelves. But really and truly, it's about educating them about the brand. So on a daily, we get a ton of people asking, what is that? I didn't know about this. And to be honest, I want everything off my shelf. So, and you walk in, we're gonna try and sell you anything that you want, but we have products that are just not your mainstream products, so we're gonna have to educate you.
And then I'm teeing up a question.
Okay.
You are a master email collector. You got everyone's contact in there.
I do.
Right? Which is beautiful. How many people in the room are collecting each other's email addresses right now?
I've been handing mine out.
That number's short. Because what we just talked about, right? But that number's short because what we just talked about is awareness. Yeah. And everyone in here has a brand or is trying to do something else. And I think there's only a few people in here that have got everyone's email address and can make that awareness 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touch points for you to know that one, she has a store.
Yep.
That he has an amazing vessel that he's building. That Pronghorn has 19 brands we invested in, and be able to touch you with that data point, where do you live, segment your list, because I know that I met you here on the QR code. I met you here, and where do you live? Oh, you live there. So when you go back to Detroit, I know I got 10 Detroits, 4 New Yorks, 6 Brooklyns, 2 Queens, and now I can target you at that store for your Brooklyns.
That's right.
Right? So like, we're not using simple mathematics and simple data to get awareness out. Forget the millions of dollars of, do the basics, right? Because by the time you get $1 million, $2 million, or whatever funding you think you need, that should be a well-oiled machine, where you're just inputting into the funnel, and you're spitting out awareness funnel, awareness, and people are making consideration. They walk into her store and say, I already heard of it 6 times.
Yeah.
Just show me where it is on the shelf. But she doesn't have to educate them. We need to do the educating. You need to do the educating of your brand. So I feel like we need to put it incumbent upon ourselves to do the simple things right.
Right. I want to say this, and I'm going to chime in right there, because we're talking about Sunshine. When I started Taste the Black Spirits, I started Taste the Black Spirits and ordered all the product from Sunshine online. To the point I ordered for 3 events, right?
Yep.
3 events in a row. And when I saw that, I was amazed. I'm like, this literally exists, right? It literally exists, because that's what I was looking for. I was looking for us. I had a brand, I was working with a brand at some point, but I'm like, it's more than that. It's just not about, for me, it's not about one. It's about all. It's about a collective. And when I saw what she was doing, because I read about her, when I saw the store, read about her, I'm like, oh, this is a real thing. This is not for show. This is a real thing. I mean, even they have descriptions on the bottle on what the product is and all those great things, all those little details that she do to stand out, or that they do over at that store to stand out. For me, was like, that's one of the reasons I do this, because there are people out here who want to do it like that, who do support us like that, who do want us to be out front, right? She pushing those brands out front. She give tastings over there. She does all kind of things that I saw within that short time. We're talking 2019, 2020. So we're talking 2020.
Which, by the way, we thought like all of his orders were fraud.
Yeah,
We were like,
she just telling you I'm spending that kind of money.
we were like,
She's like,
you were. He was like, oh, I'll get 10 bottles of this, 12 bottles
That's
of that.
right,
Remo
yeah.
was calling me like, yo, this guy's a fraud. Like, okay, we gotta do the due diligence.
Make sure it's clear before you send anything out. Before we even box it up, make sure it's clear.
Yeah.
And then look, watch this though. So moving forward, even remember the distributing situation with Tom Bullock?
Yeah.
Where I'm like, yo, he there. She went back. She went to bat for me because she didn't have it. She went to bat, got the distillery, we got the product. She shipped it out. I mean, the things that we did, and again, we just were aware of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we figured out that we were aligned with each other, then it just got larger. And that's why we're here. That's one of the reasons we're here.
Because the education is a big part of it. And like, I'm spoiled because people send me stuff on a regular basis. It's like, you know, I can't assume people have the knowledge I have. Like, I know, like,
What's your address?
I live in the Bronx on the ground floor with big gates on the door, you know, but come by. But yeah, no, I mean, the thing is that like, I write about, but I can't write about everything I taste. And I took it up upon myself to like actively go chase down things and build out what I thought of as my flavor library. Like, what does this taste like? What's this, you know, what am I comparing it to? If I was making a cocktail, what would I use? What are the different component parts? If you're in a bar, if I walk in a bar, I could scan through everything they got and figure out, okay, what do I want to drink? What haven't I had? What would be new? But the thing is, for your average person, and this is why I'm a big fan of like either small stores or direct to consumer, you come in, it's a challenge. If you walk in, it's like every one of these bricks is a different spirit. And there's not necessarily somebody in that store that can recommend to you what you should have.
Unless you go to Happy Cork.
I was gonna say, this is leading into a question. What do you have as your educational program at your store? Does it mean, like, do you say like, hey, I'm gonna show off 5 different vodkas from different black distillers? You know, hey, I'm gonna do some whiskeys. Here's what we have. Here's where they're from. Here are their stories. I mean, I run a whiskey club. I do tastings. That's how I educate. It's like, it's not about getting drunk. It's really, I'm like, my whole plan is you come in here to taste stuff and figure out what it is you want to spend money on. What do you like? And so when you walk in a store, you're like, yeah, I had that, didn't like that, love that. I'll buy that. Fine. If that's all that happens, I'm good. You know.
So in terms of, again, I think a lot of brands, there are so many great brands out there that, you know, we can't get every brand on our shelves at the moment because, you know, we're tight on space, one. But two, I think what sets us apart, and Fawn Weaver of Uncle Nearest told me one time, she goes, you know, the reason why things sell off of your shelves so quickly is because you guys are so invested. And we do. We are super invested in the product. We don't just bring a product in. I gotta know your story. I gotta speak to the brand. I'm talking to you day and night. We're tasting, our team, we taste everything before it comes in. We do staff tastings because not everybody's gonna have the same palate. So for you to sell a product, you gotta know how it tastes. So we make sure the team tastes. But we are so invested in these brands. Are you like, Vanessa, how long have we known each other? And I'm like, I gotta get you in the store. I need to, but again, she has a line that if I bring that line in, I'm doing her an injustice.
What's it called though?
Black Mama Vodka.
Yeah.
But if I bring her line in, I need to know that I have enough space on the shelf and I have enough visibility for her. I'm not gonna just put her against another set of vodkas that are already there. I need to know that I can give her that investment into, we're gonna promote you, you're gonna be doing tastings, we're carrying you on the road with us. Like tomorrow, we're doing Taste of Black Spirits. We're bringing a portfolio that no one else has. But again, it's because we're so invested, is why that education, we can come in, a customer can come in and we can tell you the entire story behind a brand. The reason why they got started, how it tastes, what it tastes like when you eat something. So for us, it's again, education, but education from within. So our team is completely educated on all of the products that they have so they can sell.
And I think that,
if I could say, because I'm glad that she put that out. Me as the brand, I'm going to use me as the brand, we are totally invested, we'll be totally invested into Happy Cork, like I am with Total One. So what she's going to do, I'm going to step and back that with Beacon digital marketing to my 65,000 customers who are go by their zip code, who's close to Happy Cork, and say, hey, go get your Black Mama Vodka bottle now, and then we'll throw in some Black Mama Agave, which is a non-alcoholic item, so it's an incentive. You know, so we have to work together. Too often, brands do not support the retailers.
Yep, absolutely.
And the retailers, they leave the retailers to hand sell. That's old news. We have to do things as far as utilizing the technology, like Jamari says. We're not using that. We're still doing lips to, you know, liquid, which is cool, but it's hard to scale when you do that. We need to use the digital marketing. We need to reach out to our customers and use those emails and give incentives to our retailers to push.
well said.
Absolutely.
And I think too often too, this is almost like it's not a two-sided market, but it has multiple faces. One side is the brand side, right, which is what we're talking about right now. The other side is the business side. So we don't have a educational platform in that way, but we have basically like an industry library, right? So we're educating the founders on how to do business, right? What is your cost of goods structure? What's your supply chain? How are you going about to market? How are you thinking about that in general? So one of the things that I think is disruptive about how we are approaching this industry right now is we don't just give you your Shark Tank 30-second pitch and say, good luck, figure it out. We actually educate you on the actual industry because we know that half of us are walking in blindfolded. Right? We don't know our networks, we don't know who the distributors are, we don't know how the thing works, but we love the liquid, and that's dope. But if you don't know how to do the business part, it's over. Right? So shout out to Connor, shout out to Steve, shout out to Tiffany and Lynette, Taylor, Steve in the room, some up there. If you want that kind of education, we do that part first. Right? That part. Shaniqua, Naira, and we came deep today.
Yeah, deep.
Right? We came deep today. Pronghorn is in the building.
Pronghorn is in the building.
But the reason that we did that is because, one, we want to educate, but two, we want to build community so we know where each other is at. But it's because we also want to teach and educate on how the business component works, because that is your secret weapon that we usually don't get access to, right? So we talk about access to capital, access to networks, and access to know-how. We got the know-how. So come knock on our doors and let us give you the know-how. If it makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I think that those two things then combined, when you have the brand and the business knowledge, then you're dangerous. Then you're disrupting the industry. Then you're disrupting the space, because we can't compete by ourselves with the capital that those big brands have. It's not possible, right? Unless we're doing something that's slightly different, right?
Yeah. 100%. I feel like, I agree 100%. And I think about how I do business with my team. I'm in here deep too. Detroit, stand up. Okay, all right.
I'm deep too. Where's my team at?
That's community right there.
That's community right there. I think, and that's why we are here. We are here to share. We are here to collaborate. We're here to do this thing we're doing. We're doing this on purpose, authentically, right? We're doing this for a reason and a purpose because we see it. We know collectively we can make these things happen. From every place we are, we're all in different spaces. I hit the ground for brands. I have a portfolio of 9 African-American owned brands in Michigan. Fort Mose over there. I mean, Victor is crazy. Tom Bullock, Duke and Dame, Island John, T. Capri, Black Mama Vodka, all these things. Like, I built these relationships because I know I'm gonna hit the ground. I know my team is gonna hit the ground. We love hitting the ground, and we do business unusual. We don't do usual business because it ain't set up for us, right? If you understand that the way the business is set up and it's not for you, you have to be creative. And getting creative is getting educated, and getting educated is getting in relationships, building relationships. I may not have all the components, but I know Jamari got this. I know Sunshine got this. I know Victor got this. He got this. Vanessa got this. Let's put those pieces and those things together, and then we create this, right? We supply this. We're supplying education. We're supplying opportunity, funding, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my take on it.
We should open up the floor to some questions.
Earlier we were talking about distribution, and just like with us, even when we
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Steve-O, stand up and tell us what your brand is, sir.
Ricardo more tequila. Cartier Cognac. But you said distribution earlier, and even with us, we can get distribution sometimes. Like, like you said, you got to establish a brand. That's a big work on. We come in there, and they get a distribution, it's going to work. It's going to work out too. Even though you use them, it's farther costs you can't reach. What's that problem that you think helps solve that with the teams that we work hard for? Like this been going with Hennessy. Oh, we got Hennessy with this week on the activity. We should get. Because I've been in that situation before with a street distributor. I was killing the city so good, they tried to shut it down, so they actually brought me in, try to kill me. So I had to buy stuff back. So what you tell our people that they try to stop, you try to go the right way, and you think you're going good, and they all streets, you're trying to keep your brand on work for you. Like I'm gonna tell you, like, hey Sunshine, we got a new black brand, you wanna take this in, I'm gonna tell you, unless you ask.
So I think it's going back to, again, Jamari, Vanessa, just in terms of the brand themselves working, you got to work backwards, right? So you got to do all the promo, you got to do, even if that brand is in that portfolio at this distribution company, they may not push you because you haven't shown I'm selling like crazy. The amount of brands that I show, we've sold like crazy, and that's why I'll give you an example, McBride Sisters started with us. McBride Sisters, I won't say the distribution company, but they were bringing in like maybe 10 cases at a time. Once we showed we could sell, I was selling 10 cases in like 2 days. So they were like, okay, well, now we gotta up our buys. So they started bringing in more varietals. They started bringing in more people to work on that team. But even with that, McBride Sisters had to have a dedicated team to push it on social media, hit the ground running. If I needed to do tastings, Robin and Andrea would come and do tastings because the brand themselves, they have to show up. So I think it's working backwards where it's like, yes, you have distribution, but see it as you don't have any distribution whatsoever. Get the brand, get everybody knowing the brand, and once you show that you're selling, distribution will put you in the top of the book.
Yeah, distribution is not the unlock, right? Even the biggest brands have dedicated divisions they put inside the distribution, right? That they like, we need a whole team to compete against each other. So you treat it like you don't have one. You need your own workforce, your own sales force to actually go do that, and it's supply and demand, right?
I was doing that, and I got mad at that. I guess I was taking up too much space. I was killing 1,800 Patron. I was taking all the space. I do the stores, I would buy the back wall. I was really just doing my thing out there.
You were direct distributing to the.
First, I had my own distribution.
Got it.
The big boys came in, they seen me sell so well, and took over. So I thought it would help me some. So now they put me through distribution. I keep promoting. And when I find out, the inside purchase, it's so bad for them. They didn't really want to brand, want to kill it because you was taking too much money.
Educate everybody else, my man. Let's educate everybody in the community.
Welcome to the neighborhood. We've all been there. So, listen, that's just, so you're not doing anything that you're doing great. You just don't want something.
Hey, you do that kind of stuff. I ain't heard about it, because when I do it, just I'm like, wow. And, you know,
I'll say this as a person who runs a club. There's times you have to advocate for self. So I'll give you an example. Brand might come in, it's new to the market. Nobody's had it in New York. You do a tasting, you know, you don't have to do anything special. Bring what you have. Tell your story. If you get 10 people there to say, I had a great time, I love that, where can I get that, where is it here? They'll go out and do work for you. You know what I mean? It's like, and it may be you have to, like, you or somebody who you work with has to come out every couple months to kind of just get it going. But once you have dedicated fans,
Every couple of days.
well, you know, it gets hard. I'm trying to be realistic, you know, but it's like, yeah, but it's just like, it's the nice thing about something like clubs or something like Sunshine Stores, people who are going in there, you know they buy spirits. There's no question. They like to drink. So you have an audience that's willing to give you money because they're already spending it. You just have to give them the reason to buy your product. And there's times, I mean, ideally you get a distributor and they can do that for you, but they can't or won't. And, you know, you might have to investigate the situation, but you might have to, like, you know, you might have to be the boot on the ground for a little while just to get it started. But once you have your advocates, you know, and I saw a hand go up.
My question is, Keith Freeland from
Asking Kane, rum.
Okay.
My question is kind of in line with the one. What strategies have you seen be successful for smaller brands to extend to a greater market? Like, I'm in the DC market. Like, I want to get to Atlanta. It's difficult for me to get there. So what have you seen has been successful to expand your market? I can only be in one place at one time.
This is for me.
Yeah, just looking at you.
I would say in a lot of ways the best case studies we've seen are the brands who go as deep as possible. Let's do some quick math. The big brands have what, millions of cases in DC per like type of SKU. Where you going? Where you going? I don't know your case volume, but why go wide and why go far when you can't be there? When you can tell your story and the DMV knows exactly who you are all day, every day, guess what? People come to find you. Well, Lazar said, they'll come find you to be like, I know you smoking out there. You're doing 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 cases. Why are you going 1 foot outside of the DMV? What's the reason that you're giving to yourself? Did you saturate the market yet? No. Is your velocity at the highest velocity it could be? No. Are you in all the top 20% of the accounts that sell your kind of spirit? No. So where are we going? Right? So the companies that really do it well just lock down. They lock down the block. They lock down the community. And they know exactly why the community drinks it, which members of the community, what time of day, what they drink it with, and when they don't drink it, right? And they own that consumer all the way through the line. And then they figure out the next closest market to it, right? And that idea, I've talked about it before, it's called diffusion of innovation. Throw a pebble in a lake, it ripples kind of lightly. Throw a boulder in the lake, it's like a tsunami, right? Throw your boulder into the lake. Don't try to throw a bunch of pebbles everywhere.
That's a great answer. Great answer.
I can't top that.
Great answer. Anybody else?
Oh,
scholarship recipient. From college, my question was, which you kind of answered it, when you said Black Bottom, immediately, as a Detroiter, 6 Mile, 30 Mile, Governor song, I immediately thought, okay, I know that neighborhood. I know what Black Bottom is. It was a very prosperous Black neighborhood, and they tore it down in order to build 375. You mentioned, Black Mama. I know Black Mamas that always got a good look here in their cabinet that they trying to keep away from me. But as a Black person, often I find my classmates who are trying to get into certain things, especially if it involves food, drink, social media, they're always told, make yourself more marketable to the masses. And just hearing those names are very Black. Those names are very, enriched in the Black culture. So how do you have a product that's specifically made for a certain type of people, yet, you're trying to get this money and market it and distribute it to the masses?
I don't think any product should be made to a specific group of people.
No.
People drink liquor, just like people drink water. Yes, we're Black brands and we're Black businesses, but we want everybody's money, right? We want to be in everybody's store. I know y'all, yeah, okay. We want all of that. We want all the smoke, right? So we don't concentrate on us, right? I don't concentrate on, hey, I want you to buy my liquor and you, and that's it. This whole side room, that's it. I want the whole room, no matter what you look like. Yes, I'm a Black business. I don't expect you to like me because of that. I expect you to love my product because it's good. My packaging is excellent because that's what's gonna pull you, is what it looked like first, because that's how our mind works. So if I set that tone for myself, and understanding I'm trying to reach everybody, right? It's no different than I remember when DMX came out, right? New York, Detroit hated DMX. They hated Get At Me Dog. I loved it. I saw him at the tunnel. I'm like, what is wrong with y'all, right? What's going on? But when he hit, it just took them a minute. I saw it immediately. It's gonna be a minute, but you gotta constantly, like Jamari said, focus on house, focus on that block, and if you bubbling hard there, they're gonna take it to New York. Somebody's gonna take it to Atlanta, DC, Miami, etc. And those people are gonna start a conversation with another group of people, right? Building that awareness organically, and then you're gonna get a phone call like, yo, can we get that rum down here after you done sold 200,000-300,000 cases at home on a regular basis, after those big stores are calling you and highlighting you and adding to your marketing budget because you're showing them like, yo, I exist, I'm this cold, and I can't cuss, my stuff is for everybody.
Not so much throwing a wrench in the works, but I've seen this work. Think of it as something you can do on the back burner. You're interested in Atlanta to get into it. Find a bar you like in Atlanta with an owner you know and you get along with. See if you can get some product there and see what they can do with it. It's like them, have them make cocktails. Don't do anything else but just see what happens. What's the reaction? People liking it? Are they asking where they can get it? And it's one place. It's not that hard to keep track of that one place, that one venue. And if it's doing well there and people are asking, hey, where can I get it? Then you know that when it comes time, I can expand. I can at least get it to a couple more bars. I can maybe get a store or two to carry it. You can do that while you're expanding your home market. You can have that as your second, as a starter program. Just put it might cost you 5 cases. But if they're making drinks with it and it's working and the drinks are popular, people are going to ask where they can get it. Once you have that there, now you have a starter audience and a starter place that you can spread out from when you're ready. It might be that, you only have it there for 6 months, a year. But then when it comes time, you got a place where you can start and you can spring from.
And I think one thing to add to, I think that we haven't really touched on in terms of, we have something like that is at our fingertips for free. Social media, as much as you think they're not looking, they're looking, right? So I have brands in the store now that for a couple of years I'm looking at them, or a couple of years I'm like, oh, I can't wait for them to get through to New York, distribution, because you're building that momentum. And it's about posting every day. It's about trying to, you, as you said, gather that email list, send out a newsletter, send out an email blast. There are so many free tools we could use to spread the wings of the brand, and you don't necessarily have to be in every state to hit it. So as you said, hit your state, hit your city, make sure that you are huge there, and then use your little tentacles to get on social media, to get into the email blast of people that are now ordering from you. Then they're hitting me up like, yo, why don't you have that? I get emails every day. Why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? So it's really about building that momentum and getting your people to do the work for you. You'll have people that will do it for free. They'll share you. They'll make sure that everybody, I have brands in the store that was just like a customer loved it because they bought it and they're like, you need this in here. So it's as much as you think you're not hitting everyone, you are hitting the people that you need to hit when you need to hit them.
There was another hand up. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gary Johnson III, founder and CEO of a startup called BBP Coffee Co. We sell specialty grade coffee products.
All right, I drink coffee every day.
We were the winners of Pronghorn's inaugural Spirit Innovation.
Oh yeah, okay, all right.
Welcome to the gala. Why am I not
I'll
invited?
see you.
And now Pronghorn is sponsoring my final year at Howard University.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. That's fine.
The question is, as somebody who's looking to really break into the spirit space, having a product already that's non-alcoholic, can you share the blueprint in regards to what are the things we need to think about from licensing, permits, whether we want to do a club, open our own shop, or launch a ready-to-drink product? What are the things we need to have in place before we start actually leaning into technology to try to sell a product?
You want the blueprint?
That's a hell of a question.
What is the blueprint to making a brand? Jesus Christ.
I mean, that'll be a seminar in next year's program.
Any comments there, Mr.?
I mean,
I feel like you got a book on this.
not on this one, but I mean, but truth be told,
She's next.
yeah. Truth be told, I mean, I'd say this. I'm sure Jamari will have more info on this, but whatever way you do it, you have to pick one path and hit it hard. So if you want to do something simple, like you want to do a club, you want to do a pop-up shop, fine. Do that and focus on it hard for a certain amount of time. Give yourself, whether it's 6 months, a year, grow out your list, email list, get partners you can work with, get places that want to have your brand in the store, and see where you're at. Look at the numbers. Because once you have that, you can expand it then. You're like, oh, I got 10,000 people who like my coffee and they're on my email list. You know what? You could do a lot with that. There are a lot of places you can get and say, hey, can I be exclusive here? Can I be the coffee provider for this space? Then from there, you can start asking the people who are on your list questions like, hey, you guys like our coffee. Are you interested in a ready-to-drink option? Is that something that you'd buy? They can be your tasters. If you do it, when you're trying to work it out, what do you guys like? What do you think? It's like they're there, and if they're already a fan, they're willing to work with you. They're happy to be part of that process, and it makes your life easier because if they like it, they're willing to buy it. If they're already buying it, they're willing to spread the love to everybody else. So that's my take on it.
And I think it would be disingenuous to tell you a blueprint of 3 different business types, right? I think Lazar said it like you have to choose something that you're authentic about. Because if you're choosing 3 different businesses and saying, what are the blueprints for each because I have a product that fits in each, the consumer doesn't believe you, right? They're like, you sell coffee, you got a club, or like, what you doing? And you can do all, right? But you have to be very intentional about which one of those blueprints you are creating today, right? Because you can't be in 3 places at the same time, in theory, and you might not have enough capital to run all the things efficiently. Now, you might be a billionaire, you can do all 3, but then you got 3 different people asking about the blueprints in 3 different industries, right? So by industry, by state regulations, and and kind of laws, they're going to be different
Everywhere.
things you're talking about. You can't be a hospitality kind of club owner and own a spirits company, right? So like that's just like one of those legal things. But you can be a coffee company and own a coffee restaurant, right? You can vertically integrate that way. So the question is, what are you focused on? And then I'll come and give you the blueprint.
The question on this side, I think.
Where is it?
That was just somebody raising their hand for a drink.
I can't help him. He drinks over on that side. That's something else. All right. So, any more questions before? Because obviously, times are going. I see another hand up. That's fine. We're happy to have him. It shows you're paying attention.
Hi, Serena. So again, I'm a huge fan of LibDib, just because it gives you an opportunity to get into spaces that you would not typically get into by having distribution. You could have distribution in, like, let's say New York, right? But your distribution company, there are a few distribution companies that don't even publish on like public platforms like 750, which is now Provi. So like some of them have their own websites. So a lot of the times you don't find yourself having visibility, right? So you might have a great distribution company, but you just don't have visibility for me or for a lot of different stores. I have to go out there and seek you, right? So I think LibDib giving you that option to also show sell-through is huge, because not only more money stays in your pocket, but you're shipping directly, you have a direct relationship with their stores themselves, because I have more of a direct relationship with anybody that I get through LibDib, because most of the time I've probably directed them there, or they're like, hey, I'm on LibDib, right? So I reach out to them. So for me, I think LibDib is a beautiful way to start, but it also gives you that kind of gauge to even know, where is my market? Going back to, again, having market knowledge and having knowledge of who you're serving is huge. So that gives you an opportunity to say, okay, well, I sold 10 cases over here, but over here I only sold 2. So let me focus more on this side than that side. So I think having a platform like a LibDib is huge. It would be nice if there was another one like that.
Yeah. I can tell you that I self-distributed for years, right? And I think what you're trying to create when you self-distribute, which is a harder approach, but to your point about having more capital, you keep more because you didn't give away whatever those points were. It takes a little bit longer, but you do know your customer. You know your end customer. You know your retail customer intimately. And what you're really doing is creating leverage, right? That's what you really need to create with distribution, is you're trying to create leverage. When I walked into my first distributor, I was like, I have 50 accounts. They were like, we'll say less.
Yeah.
Right, because they don't have to do the work of putting people in the street to go do that for you. It's already done, and I have a team that's already kind of, oiling the machine. Right, so if you can build that kind of leverage, always my advice is like, again, I'll go back to for time to take place, and you start to understand who your retail consumers are, your end consumers one by one, it becomes really easy for you to have that leverage, because you're the plug, right? Yep. And so they're not going to go around you. They're going to be like, get this product in, right? Like you're going to start to demand. She's going to demand that this product is coming to her store because she knows that's 10 cases. And so you want to make sure that sometimes it takes a little bit more time, but it's worth the dollars. You keep a little bit more equity every once in a while, but more importantly, the end consumer is yours.
Yeah, I like what he said, because you have to build that data, right? You go, if you already went out in these streets and you got yourself 50 locations, that's building data. Those locations create data for you. For instance, and I'll talk about a brand again. This was most recent in Detroit. We had built this data with this brand. We in 1,500 stores, right? But we're not in the biggest stores that we want to be in. So we're in 2 of their stores, the big stores. This is Myers, it's the big store. So we built so much, our team built so much leverage that we put a whole Black Spirit shelf in the store because of the movement we're doing, because of how we're producing these brands and making these brands pop in the state, right? So I went and I called for a meeting with the distributor, right? Because we're in a position now. Now we built some data. Now, like, yo, we done built some things. We want to talk. We want to talk about those 109 stores that you got available that don't carry our product, but that have liquor licenses. We want to talk about that. We're not asking for all 109, but we're definitely asking for half right now. We're asking for that, and this is why. We're doing very well in all these, what is those, Total Wine stores. We're killing them. We're doing 19, 20 cases a month in each store. We can show you that. In the Myers that we put this product in, we can show you we did 15 cases in a day. We can show you that. It's in the numbers, it's in the data. So when you have the data, when you go to the table, when you present the data, now this ain't happen overnight because this is a marathon. Let's be clear, it's a marathon for sure. But if you're willing to run that marathon, this is your end result is those things you're asking for. Your end result is, okay, that now we have to work a different kind of deal because you're in position, because now you have turned the power into your own hands, is how I see it.
I just have one question. It's just that, sorry, my name is Chris Williams. So I'm in the media and event space, right? And I remember you actually when you were doing Hell Cocktail. One of the things you were very active on is being out there at events, doing everything to get the brand in front of people. So one of the things I'm new to a lot of these brands here today, and I'm just wondering, strategy-wise, are people forgetting to go out to these promoters and these venues and the brunch parties that happen and so forth all over, whether you're in New York or Miami or Atlanta, as markets that you can, get to people directly? Because social media is great, I love it, but there's nothing like, to me, that intimacy, that, person in front of you who can be that brand ambassador. Because if you get me and I have 1,500 or 2,000 people that are at my events, then you get those 1,500, 2,000 people because I said this is hot, right? So are people making that part of the strategy? And I see you have a look on your face. Is that something?
Well, I think what you're saying is, I want to make sure I catch it before it lands somewhere else.
Yeah.
I know you're not necessarily saying that the brunch party is the hot spot of the club. No. What you're saying is, do you understand the consumer? Right, because the consumer that's your target consumer echoes into eternity, right? So they will say like, that's for me, and that's for me, I want to share it with everyone else. So I think that we're all trying to say, get to know who your consumer is, because they will echo your brand and your specific values that you're trying to ingratiate will come across to them because you're speaking to them. And so that's why the data is so important, because it tells you, you may put out into the world, I think that my consumer is X, and your consumer is actually X plus one, right? But if you don't know that data, you keep selling X, you're talking to the wrong person. So you want to use that data so you understand who that consumer is, so that you can then retell that story a little bit tighter so it gets to the consumer who's actually your consumer, right? And I think that's what you're trying to say, if I caught that.
Yeah. Sure. Yes.
Right. Because when they take it home with them. And on the back of my bottle is my website where they can order other stuff. Right. And know who I am. So it's more than just the sponsorship. Sponsor my event, because the matrix is there. Only 1% within 90 days would make a purchase if they've never had the brand to take home. So that's not that doesn't make money for any brand at all when we spend it. But if we can come there and we can sell the brand and they can walk away with it, we have a customer for their life.
Also, the other piece of it is like we talk about this idea of consumer acquisition cost, right? The cost to acquire a consumer is expensive, right? And so there's many ways to run that funnel. You can do it the way he's suggesting, which you weren't, or you can run it the way, or there's 20 other ways to do it. But the most important part is like, do you understand how much it costs to acquire your type of customer, right? Because that's going to be the key to unlock the strategy that makes sense. Your strategy may not make sense for his spot, but there is a brand that does, and vice versa. But if you don't know the consumer, he might have the hot, like, whatever it is that cares about Fireball, example, right? And that's fine. Match, right? But the data will tell you each which consumer it is, and without it, we're just doing this all day long. And I think this community, what's important about this moment and the moments that Lazar is putting together is that, and that Happy Cork is putting together is that it's community all day long. So there's no reason for us to leave here without each other's information, understanding each other's profile, so that we can tap in to like-minded profiles when it's necessary and go down that funnel together.
I agree. Just real quick, how many brands are in the room by a show of hands? Look at that. Look at that.
God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's deep.
Good place to end it, right?
Yeah, that's why we're here.
All right. So should we take a break?
Yes.
Oh,
One last question.
Last question. Go on.
Say something.
Hey.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
say something.
Okay. I shut it down.
Whoop, whoop.
And we got it at Happy Cork, just so you know.
Let's say there's a choice to be made. We're talking a lot about brand awareness and getting people involved in what our brand is about, the outreach, et cetera. So there's a choice to be made between traditional publicity, print, broadcast, versus this more modern digital age outreach. Where would you guys say that those dollars should be spent?
I think you got to do it all.
Oh my God, I said the same thing.
Yeah, I
Do
think
it
you
all.
gotta do it all.
You start where you can start, right? Again, it's always back to the house.
Let's say you started with one, and now you're like, okay, I don't have enough money to do both. It all costs money.
My grandfather used to say, make it enough, right? And what I mean, if you got $1, you take, $1 has 4 quarters. You hit 4 corners with that $1, and then you got 4 quarters operating on each corner, right? You take what you can do, and you create something in the space you can do it with. It's not a competition. You don't look at what somebody else can do. I don't look at what Hennessy Tito's, or none of them, I don't care what they can do. They 100, 3, 4, 5, 600 years in the game. They supposed to be doing that. But from where we are, from the brands, from the smaller brands, or the, I don't even like to call them small brands, from the emerging brands in this room, start from where you can start. You may start at a different place, broadcasting. You may want to do commercials. You may want to do billboards. She may want to do social media, TikTok, et cetera, all day. They both can work depending on who you're trying to reach. Long as you know your audience, and we'll go right back to that. Who are you looking for? And are they looking for you? Are you creating something that they can see you? Whatever platform you're using, can they see you on that platform based on what you're trying to show them? Can they see you on that platform based on what you're trying to show them? So you have to think about which one works, but they're all going to work, but which one fits your brand?
And that's spot on, number one. But I feel like a lot of times that I was a victim to this. Your question that everyone asks is, how do I get the information? Because what you're trying to do is map your consumer journey and then intersect them at that moment that matches your brand. But how do you do that? How do you do it? There's an old tried and true way. It's called primary research. Super old school.
Super old school.
Right? When you're doing your tasting, when you're on social media and someone's DMing you, why did you buy this product? Where did you buy this product? What did you drink with it? How did you drink it? Did you use ice? What did you add to it? Like in the tasting, like, why are you here? Do you like it? What don't you like about it? Is it too peaty? Is it too this? Like literally 40 questions, because once you get to know your community of consumers that we talked about over there, You know exactly why they're buying it and why they're not, why they showed up to that store, who talked to them. You're literally interviewing everybody. There's no hands, like everybody gets interviewed so that you know your product, right? It's like know thyself, know thy product, know why people are intersecting with it, regardless, so that you can map where they found you, right? I'm in your DM. You used to show me a Hella whatever. I'm like, okay, my name is Jamari. I'm the CEO of Hella. They like, what? I'm like, I'm dead serious. Where'd you buy it? At Alpharetta, blah, 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 blah. Where? At Total Wine and More. Why? Because I'm gonna have an event. To do what? Then I'm gonna map that character over and over and over and find the common themes, and then I'm gonna target you with my $1 or my 4 quarters, right? And so a different person emerges that is more valuable in terms of like lifetime value or something else, or there's gonna be 2 or 3 or 4 of those types of people that are giving me different stories, and I'm like, oh, so you're a non-alc drinker who likes to drink during the day at the pool. You love old fashions at night in the crib after a hard day's work. And I'm mapping you, and then I'm promoting to you in those sweet spots that you exist.
Great. I know we're gonna over, but I wanna say one more thing if y'all don't mind. We are here. We're here at Liquid, Taste of Black Spirits, Brooklyn. We're doing this for exactly the reason y'all sitting in these chairs. This is how we build. This is what we need to do unconsciously. I do this unconsciously. I don't have to think about this. I reach out. I saw Vanessa pitch me somebody, Sarita Braxton. I hit her up. Yo, hey, we having this Taste of Black Spirits. Here go an invite. She pitched it to me. She saw her, same last name. She saw her. She saw her. I hit her up. Congratulations. Yo, this is what we doing. She hit me back, and it just went like that. And that's most of the people in this room. Frisky Whiskey, right? Los Hermanos. Most of the people in this room, like you said, I'm on you. I'm on your head. Happy Cork. Hey, what's up? Where that product at? She's like, yo, you gotta hit me on IG. Oh, what's up? What's up? That's exactly what she told me. Yo, I don't really do this email stuff. Hit me on IG. You wanna chat? Boom. Hey, I need this, and this, and this, and this. I go to your site, boom, boom, boom. I need all of that, right? So for me, and I'm saying all that because most of the people in this room I met this lifetime. I don't need to know your background, your history. I need to go to school with you. I just know you align with me. And because you align with me, I know we can make it happen. And because we can make it happen, we can't be stopped, because like I said, I don't do usual business. I do unusual business, because that other shit ain't set up for us. That's the only cuss word I get today.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Drop his mic.
Yeah. So now that Jamari's on strike, we're going to take a break. All right. Thanks, guys.
Pardon me and my tone. You can't step to my throne. They ain't working like me. I did this on my own. You asking where we been, huh? I don't know where to begin, huh? All this dirt on my skin. I just came here to win.